Let's start by reading the question. For each of the following random variables, decide which of the following apply. The binomial distribution is a suitable model. In this case, you should write down the value of n and p if known. Or, the suitability of the binomial distribution as a model is dependent on some additional factors. In this case, you should state what factors the suitability depends on. Or finally, the binomial distribution is unsuitable as a model. In this case, you should explain why it is unsuitable. Looking at parts A and B, both of them are worth 2 marks. To me, this suggests that I get 1 mark for correctly choosing whether it is suitable, dependent or unsuitable, and the second mark for explaining the reasons why. Before we look at these, let's remind ourselves of the binomial distribution and what we need to show if it is binomial or not. So, the binomial distribution. If you remember, we looked at 3 things, 3 criteria for the binomial distribution. The first one is that there can only be 2 possible outcomes. And we said that those had to be success and failure. Oops. The second one said that there must be a set number of trials. And this is what is known as n. And the final one was that the probability of success must be constant. And we called that P. And therefore, trials must be independent. Check out my spelling. It's horrific, I do apologise. Therefore, probability. Dear me, it's terrible, sorry. So there are my 3 criteria, and I'm just going to keep those on the right hand side just to bear in mind when I'm answering this question. So let's start with A. The total number of questions answered correctly when the answer to each of a 10 multiple choice question is randomly guessed. So let's look at the 3 categories and see if we can tick off each one. There can only be 2 possible outcomes, success and failure. Can we tick that box? Yes, they're either going to get it right or wrong. It doesn't matter how many different options there are on the multiple choice question. The success is getting it right and the failure is getting it wrong. So I can tick that first box, or that first criteria. There must be a set number of trials, and we call that n. Well, yeah, again, we can tick that box. And we can say, for that question, n is 10, because there are 10 multiple choice questions. The probability of success must be constant, P, and therefore trials must be independent. Now this one I cannot tick. I don't know the probability of success. It does not tell me in this scenario how many options there are in the multiple choice. It doesn't tell me if it's A and B, A, B, C, A, B, C, D, etc. So even though they're randomly guessed and they have the same probability for each one that has the same number of options, I don't know what those options are. So I cannot tick this one unless I know the number of options. So out of my 3 bullet points in this question, I have to say that X is dependent. 1 mark. And the dependency is we need to know the number of, let's call them choices, not options. So for that question, I'm looking for an answer of dependent, 1 mark, because we need to know the number of choices, and that's my 2nd mark. Let's look at part B. A raffle sells 300 tickets and has 20 prizes. Prize tickets are drawn 1 by 1 randomly from a large bowl and then discarded. Y is the number of prizes won by a random sample of 12 tickets. So let's check the 3 criteria. There can only be 2 possible outcomes. Well, yeah. I either win a prize or I don't win a prize. So that one's fine. There must be a set number of trials. Yeah. In this question, I'm told that my sample is 12 tickets. So despite the fact I have 300 tickets and there's 20 prizes, my N for this question is actually 12. 3. The probability of success must be constant. Be careful here. It says the tickets are drawn 1 by 1 randomly from a large bowl and then discarded. So the probability of me winning on the first ticket drawn is 1 out of 300. But the probability of me winning on the second ticket drawn is 1 out of 299. And then 1 out of 298. So this is not true. So B is no, 1 mark. P is not constant, because that probability changes every time.